Hi from Algarrobe here in El Perelló in Catalonia, and you can find us under the umbrella organisation of soteriologicgarden.com. Okay, so what you see in front of you, you might rightly recognise as a wonderful piece of celery. And it's been in there for about, I'd say, since last September. I planted seeds and I left that one. Now you have to imagine this is a floating propagating tray. Everything else has come out of it and been planted on, and I'm eating celery all year round now. But what a wonderful plant to have. Now just look at the root systems on this. This is just absolutely incredible. Woo! It's like the old man beard, isn't it? Wow. I mean, just to get that into perspective, the top growth mirrors the bottom growth. So this is just one plant, and that's living in water which has algae and mosquitoes in it, and probably a little bit of fertilizer which is spilled into it. But for this lesson, I'm just going to use what I make tons of, which is biochar. And I use biochar all the time because it's carbon and it rots down, and it because of its size, it actually rots down irregularly. So there's also a continued process of breaking the the minerals down into usable nutrients. So the reason I say that is because charcoal is an inert material, but once it's in the ground, it actually sucks in or draws in minerals from the surrounding area, and it stores them for plant roots to be able to get to them. So whatever I put into this propagating tray is going to absorb whatever is in the water that it's floating in. So let me do this. I'm going to fill this tray up with the gauze, and then I'm going to plant some seeds which I've collected.
Con el aire glaciado, llevando las alas de la paloma. No necesito volar tan alto por los ríos, me dirigen a mi destino.
Bearing in mind that a seed has all the energy requirements it needs, and at the point at which you need to transplant is the point at which you start adding fertilizer. So an inert substance like charcoal is absolutely perfect. Should be.
Por sus cuerpos sufridos, un golpe de Espíritu Santo, de Espíritu Santo.
When the rains come, I will go around to all my young fruit trees and I will put a ton of charcoal as a mulch, and that will conserve the moisture which is underneath it. Don't put it before, put it after. So that's something for my volunteers when they come. It'll be happening next week.
Mi montaña, mi las aguas, me hagan lento el viento, me enseña el campo sagrado, que embarrase corazón, a corazón.
I suppose one of the benefits of using a material like this is you're not suddenly going to get loads of tomato seeds germinating, even though that's been quite a good thing for me in the past. When you're sifting compost, you'll get some seeds in there and they'll germinate, and sometimes you just don't know what they are. So we can guarantee that none of this will germinate until I put something in it. So that's it. Nice. If you look over here, that beautiful jasmine, it's just past its glory, growing straight out of biochar. It's probably getting some of the urine overflow coming out the toilet there. But look at it. I mean, won't be long before that's all over my compost toilet. So this is my propagator, and I couldn't use it for storing that much water because there was a big crack in it, so I fixed the crack to a certain degree, but there we are. It just keeps a very moderate temperature and humidity. The mosquitoes like it also, but you can see the tomatoes, the tomato seeds germinating there from the sifted compost. But I've also got lots of calabash and gherkins and various other things ready to come through on this one. And I'll just allow the biochar here to soak up the water for a little bit before I actually plant any seeds. But I'm going to show you also some of the uses I've put to charcoal at various places around the farm. So this is my compost toilet, and the wheelie bin is underneath it. This comes out like black gold. In a couple of years' time, all of that poo will rot down well into the biochar, and it's just like super compost. You couldn't buy this stuff, it's that good. And as I say, it takes 2 years, and I use it around my trees and not on the vegetables. Okay, this is an old bathtub which I'm using as a water garden in the compost toilet area. So oak containers here, and I've got some nice riverside plants growing now. The temperature is actually going up. But look, there's a Hessian bag of charcoal there, and the reason I put it in there, I wanted to see if it would purify the water and keep the water from going green, and it does. You can see the reflection, because what happens is when there's too much algal build-up, the algae colonizes around the base of the stems, the new stems here, and young plants can't handle algae, and the algae just eventually rots the stems, and the stems just fall over. So there's no charcoal in there, and you can see how much algae is already building up. But when you look at the rest of the bathtub, where you'd expect a lot of algae, it's crystal clear. So maybe the charcoal is actually doing its job in the corner there. So here we are. I put some fig cuttings in that floating propagator, and they started to produce roots, but then I realised I couldn't take the cuttings out without damaging the root systems. They are so flimsy when they are growing into pure water. But I realised the actual cuttings themselves were producing the right chemicals for root production. So once I got the cuttings out, the ones which were starting to root, I just planted them straight into charcoal, and I keep those watered until those leaves begin to produce fresh roots, and it can maintain itself. So this is what we call Nispero, or Japanese locat, and it's had charcoal around the base for about a year, and I hardly water this plant, even though it's drought resistant. It just does wonderfully well. And maybe if we scratch away, well, you can see it's still very, very dry. There's ash in there as well, actually, but the soil underneath it is damp. Well, that's a good sign. So the charcoal is actually just conserving the moisture, which is about a centimetre down. Charcoal does dry out very quickly. That's the benefit of using it as a fuel. There are videos, photos, and a nice page on the South London Permaculture website showing you how to make charcoal using the double skim method, and that's really important. Now, I spoke to people even in Mallorca and those sorts of places where they claim to make charcoal, and all they're doing is just burning tons and tons and tons of wood and collecting a little bit at the bottom of it. I can fill 3/4 of that barrel with charcoal. So this is my wood burner, and there's the flue, goes through the skylight, and I don't use wood, I use charcoal. It's too dangerous. I'm right underneath a pine tree, and I've seen flames travel up these flues and out. It's the last thing I want to do, and we're quite near to the dry riverbed, so you can imagine we could create an inferno. And the place is surrounded by pine needles and pine cones, so it's very dry here where the soils are thin. But there we are. And then I collect the ash, and that's probably about 10 burnings in there so far. Eventually it gets to the point where there'll be too much ash, but it just burns away nicely during the night and even during the following day to keep the caravan warm if it's necessary. So this has been a nice little addition for my volunteer caravan. And here's my point. The flue comes out, and then you've got a massive pine tree right over the top of it. Now I can move the caravan if I wanted to, and I did that once before just out of fear. But I realised that it's actually a nicer spot in that corner, and so long as you do take in consideration some of the rules of creating fires on the land, then you're fine. Fires can only really spread through wind. It's not about how much dry material is around, it's about how fast the flames can be fanned to other areas. So we're now in the outdoor kitchen area. Boom, boom. And you'll see I'm surrounded by pine poles, which I've cut and treated myself. But at the base of all of these posts, I charcoalized them, because insects don't eat charcoal. Yeah. And it's an old technique, thousands of years old, when they used to make wood henges in Europe. They used to charcoalize the end of the posts. It saves them from rotting. So let's go over to what I'm cooking. And I use charcoal as the base, add wood when necessary, and I create myself lovely lentil, potato, carrot, celery broth. Bon appetit!
That was also with this raised saving. We do have the carrot, it is called. It's like just for organizing who is gonna do which to collect the food and so on. But it's a bit like we also use the same for the back kitchen for the volunteers to communicate. So that is the nearest.
This is Lisa from Sweden. She's actually just talking about part of the environmental grassroots organisations that she belongs to in her own country. She's an environmentalist, and she's actually very similar to my background, although I was a bit more, I would say in London I was a bit more professional with my work. But she's a traveller, and she's been here a few times now to this part of Spain. She loves it. Lisa, do you want to say something else about where you're going?
Yeah, gonna continue. I don't know, a few days or a few weeks going north. Then I go for trails.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, yeah, on this interesting makeshift bike which you built yourself.
I practiced to begin with, but now I most of the parts.
Yeah. I wish you the best of luck, yeah.